Hi, everybody. It's Linda from Bennington Free Library.
And I'm Dina from Bennington Museum.
This is Museum ABCs.
For our November Museum ABCs program, we introduced you to our friend Michael from the Southern Vermont Natural History Museum, and he shared some of his animal friends with us and told us all about how those animals get ready for winter. Today, Linda's going to read you a story about some animals getting ready for winter. It's called Possum's Harvest Moon. And if you go to the Bennington Museum, you can take a walk along the George Aiken Wildflower Trail and read the story as you walk up the trail. It's a fun thing to do together outdoors. Today, Linda's going to share the story with us. And afterwards, we have another special guest for you. So stick around. Take it away, Linda.
Today, I'm going to read you a story about this creature. Look at him or her. It's a possum. And my story is Possum's Harvest Moon by Ann Hunter. And Ann lives in Shaftesbury. She's a writer and an illustrator of children's books. And she's also an artist. She draws and she paints and she carves. And we're so lucky to have her in one of our close communities to share her art and her possum stories. Here we go. Possum awoke one autumn evening. Shining through the grass was the biggest, brightest, yellowest moon. Oh, said Possum, the harvest moon. What a perfect night for a party. One last dance in the moonlight before the long winter, a harvest soiree. Possum hung the grass with lanterns and berries. Then he hurried off to invite his guests. Mice, mice, Possum cried at the meadow's edge. Come to my harvest moon party. We must gather seeds for the winter, said the mice. We are too busy to come to your party. Next, Possum peered into a pile of leaves. Come out, crickets. Hop along to my party under the bright harvest moon. We're tired from singing all summer, said the crickets. The night air is too cold now, and this leaf pile is so snug. Oh, doesn't it look nice and warm? Down by the creek, Possum found Raccoon catching fish. Dry your hands, old raccoon, and come to the last hurrah of the year. Oh, I would, growled Raccoon, but I must be good and fat for the long winter. So much to eat, so little time. Possum followed the creek to the pond. Frogs, frogs, Possum shouted. Come sing and dance under the great harvest moon. Come to my harvest soiree. Too late, chorused the frogs. It's time for us to go underground for the winter. Possum turned sadly toward home. He looked up to the twinkling sky. Oh, fireflies, could you come to my party? The fireflies twinkled silently back at him. How could they work on such a beautiful night? Possum asked himself. How can they think in such moonlight? He put on his hat and he sat alone, looking up at the great harvest moon. And let me show you this picture. Possum is talking to the fireflies. And now he has his hat on. He's looking up at the great harvest moon. The great harvest moon rose higher and higher. It shone down through the grass and under the leaves. It made every tired and busy creature pause. It was a moon that made them dream of dancing, of eating and singing. Toes twitched, voices hummed. How could they possibly miss Possum's harvest soiree? Would you like to be invited to Possum's harvest soiree? I sure would be. I would put on my party hat and join Possum in a minute. Raccoon rousted his crony Rabbit. The crickets invited their cousins, the katydids. The mice brought the moles. The peepers hopped after the frogs. Here they all come. They're coming. Are you ready to join them? They hurried and scurried while the night was still young. Possum could hear squeaking and scampering from all directions. Oh, here they come. Take a look. It's kind of dark. Oh, but they're running. And the guests arrived. They brought seeds and berries, fiddles and songs. All together, they gazed up at the face of the great harvest moon. Rabbit and Raccoon settled in down by the food. They nibbled and nodded. Never, never in all our years, they agreed, has the harvest moon been so bright. No, never. Oh, look how bright it is. It's brightening up their party. The mice danced until the crickets played every jig twice, and the frogs grew hoarse from singing. The fireflies' lights flickered and dimmed. Uh-oh, everybody, do you think it's time maybe for the party to be over? Let's see. A cool breeze ruffled over the tired creatures as the moon sank low. It was time to go home, home to dens and nests, holes and burrows. Time for winter's long sleep. Oh, they are ready. Good night, squeaked the mice. Great party, chirped the crickets. Until spring, growled Raccoon. Farewell, piped the frogs. See you next year, said Possum. He waved until every guest was gone. You see, he's waving. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Here he goes. Here they all go. Into their burrows and holes. Possum curled up in his own snug home. He looked out to see the last light of the great moon peeking through the grass. Can you yawn too with Possum? yawned Possum. Good night. Oh, here we go. Good night, everybody.
I just love that story about Possum and his great party that he had before everyone got ready to spend the winter in all of the different ways that animals spend the winter. Well, as I promised, we have another special guest to introduce to you today. Let's go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda, and I'm here at Bennington Free Library's Children's Room. And I'm surrounded by books written and illustrated by one of my faves, Anne Hunter. And I'm holding Possum's Harvest Moon. And this book was part of our Museum ABCs this past month. And we're going to get to meet Anne. She's here. She's on Zoom with us. And I want to introduce you. This is Anne Hunter, and she lives in Shaftesbury. And she did this book and lots of others that we have at our library. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, how are you doing? Hi, Dina.
Hi. Oh, this is so exciting to have Anne here herself. That's so cool. Anne, are you in your studio right now?
I am. I'm here in Shaftesbury, Vermont, right next door. And I'm in my studio. Behind me, you can see a wall where I hang my pictures up as I work on them. And then I take them down in color and hang them back up.
That's so exciting to be right in your studio with you. I have a question. I love the pictures in Possum's Harvest Moon. Can you tell us how you make those pictures?
I can. And I'll show you a little bit here. I'm going to pull this off the wall. This is one I'm working on right now. This is a book about beavers. I did not write this book, but it's on a piece of paper. Can you see that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a piece of paper that first I draw on the paper with a ballpoint pen here, just a regular Bic often, or a Pilot ballpoint. You get it at the grocery store. And then I use watercolors. I have a set of watercolor here, and I paint over the ballpoint with my watercolors.
Ooh, watercolors are so much fun to paint with.
And then at the end, I put in a little bit of colored pencil to get a little extra color sometimes.
Wow, that's really neat. How do they go from being those big paintings to being the pictures in the book?
That's kind of magic, isn't it? I just send the pictures off to the publisher, and they send it actually, I think, to Hong Kong or China or something, and it gets printed. I work to the exact size. So these pictures in Possum's Harvest Moon, this is the exact size that the artwork was, and then they just print it and in a factory, and they sew it together and everything.
Have you always been an artist?
I have. I used to be a baker to pay some bills when I started out on the side, but I started out when I was very young, and I illustrate all kinds of things. I work for newspapers, drawing pictures for them, for magazines. I designed T-shirts. I designed kid stickers, and pretty much anything you can think of, I would draw it. Advertising, and then finally, everybody kept saying, "Oh, my kids would love your artwork. Have you ever written a book?" And finally, in 1996, so Possum was my first book I did. That's a pretty old book now.
There's a family of possums at our library.
Hi, Possum.
Inspired by you.
I remember them.
Yeah. What inspired you to choose possums for 3 of your books?
Well, when I grew up, and still a little, have to admit, even now, I'm a little bit afraid of the dark. And my mother was a big, she would lead groups of people for bird watching and night trips out to look at owls at night. And I was always the kid that was checking under my bed, and I didn't want to be out in the yard by myself, really. But I grew up in Florida, and we have possums here now too, actually in our yard in Vermont here, but we had a lot of possums in our yard, and they would come out at night, and sometimes they would look in our door when we were in Florida, with little babies. And they're people think they look like large rats, but I really think they're so endearing.
Well, look at their face.
I know.
They're so
Their
cute.
little whiskers, and yeah.
And they make for such great illustrations.
Yeah, it was fun. And so I was looking with Possum's Harvest Moon. I said it at night because I was really interested in sort of that mysterious things that happen at night and all the nocturnal animals that might come out.
I bet a lot of kids can relate to that. What goes on at night after we go to bed?
Right. Yeah, you come out in the morning and you see tracks in the snow, or this is a good time when it just first starts snowing to look for tracks in your yard. Or if you feed the birds or something, something else has been eating that bird seed. What was it? Yeah.
We just put out a trail cam, and during the day we don't see foxes, but we definitely catch them on our trail cam. And you have a thing for foxes too, don't you, Anne, as well as possums?
Well, here we live not in the town. We live outside of Shaftesbury, so we live in the country, and we have a lot of foxes living around here. I like to work with the animals that I kind of see around. Also, foxes have fantastic ears and fantastic tails. They're very fun to draw. So
just like this one, Where's Baby?
Yeah.
Do you get to meet the author as you are creating the pictures, or do you consult with that person?
Not usually. This person I kind of met on the internet, actually, and she's lives down in Georgia, so I've never met her. But usually I haven't met most of the people I write for. They like to keep you separate, and they don't really want. I think sometimes the publisher might show the author when I've done a piece of artwork for their book and say, do you like this? But they don't have you talk directly to each other because they want the artist to have their own vision and the author to have their own vision.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And hopefully the author is happy,
Well, you said that you were busy. I can see that you're creating these beautiful beaver paintings. Do you have another book cooking too?
Yes. So Where's Baby? You just saw with the fox, So I have 2 more books coming out with that publisher. This one I just sent off last week. It's called Baby Squeaks. And I wish I had some of the artwork, but I sent it all off to get printed. It's about a baby mouse, different family, same artwork, same style, about a baby mouse that just didn't talk and was so cute, and then it started talking and it never stopped talking. It drove everybody crazy. Yeah.
I can think of some baby mice just like that.
Yes, and I also said it could also be called Mama Needs a Little Quiet.
And do you have a favorite of your books that you've illustrated?
Oh, I hate to have favorites, but I do. Possum was my first. Possum is dear to my heart, and I really like. My style is changing a little bit, and I'm really liking that. Where's Baby was a little less filled in. I enjoyed that. It was more fun for me to do, and then the Wren book was interesting. But I think so. I think those recent 2 books and this one I just finished, I rather like.
That's great.
Yeah, but I love Possum. He's such a poor guy. He has a hard
We
time.
love Possum too, don't we, Linda?
Oh, we really do. And I want to show another Possum book. This is Possum in the Summer Storm. And what I noticed about this was that your style, as you said, is changing. This is a fairly recent Possum book. And Possum looks a tiny bit different.
Yeah.
And the foliage looks a tiny bit different.
Yeah.
But it has that same energy, those same beautiful colors and composition, and that same wonderful character.
Well, we sure can't wait to see what you come up with next. We love sharing your books with our Museum ABC's friends and with our own families too.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to see you all.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Happy
See you
winter.
soon. See you
Bye-bye,
around.
everybody.